All right. Welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. We started this podcast as a way to create a central resource of the best financial advisor practice growing tips shared by the most outstanding advisors in the industry, of which our guest today is definitely one. These outstanding financial advisors agree to be on the show and provide a ton of value for free, all in the hopes that our audience might learn from their words. My father was a financial advisor, and financial advisors are the main clients we serve. So, our marketing agency's mission is to help every financial advisor grow their business in an effort to help the world become more financially secure. Today, we have the rare pleasure of talking with an incredible financial advisor, Damon King. Damon, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
You bet, Chris. Hey, thanks for having me on the show. You got my name right. A lot of people call me Damien. I promise I'm not the son of the devil. There's no omen going on here. But I'm based in the Oklahoma City area. I'm a certified financial planner professional and wealth manager with ChappelWood Financial Services. We are an independent RIA serving not just the Oklahoma City area. We've also got an office in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Arlington, Texas. And we've got clients coast to coast as well. And I've been here with this firm for 10 years.
Wow. Okay. So you started when you were 15.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can't you tell the hairline? I say I'm working on the same hairstyle as you. So
Oh
that's
yeah, man. This is all the rage these days.
absolutely no muss, no fuss. I should just shave it all off and be done with it, but I can't bring myself yet to that. So
Yeah. Well, it brings looks of distinguishment to you, sir. So
well, thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate that. I appreciate
that's that's great. So are you from the Oklahoma City area?
Yeah, born and raised here, and like a lot of people that grow up in Oklahoma, when I was in college and graduated, I was going to move. I was going to leave Oklahoma. At that time, Oklahoma City hadn't yet experienced the renaissance that has since happened in the intervening 20 plus years. And so I ended up staying. But like a lot of guys, what ended up keeping me here is I met a girl, and
Mm.
that kept me here. And so I've been here ever since. But I love it. Love the quality of life here. Really great people,
Hmm.
and I can travel anywhere I want. So that's great. I get to go and experience other things, and then I get to come back home. So
Yeah. Have you reserved an office space in the tallest building in America that's going up?
not just yet. We'll be looking for that. I'm waiting to see the renderings of the penthouse suite on the 138th floor or whatever that is. Yeah,
Wow.
that's going to be really interesting. It's funny because when you live in a flyover state, okay, we all know and we all get it. Everybody in Middle America, except maybe for Texas, we all know we're flyover states. That's just life. And so that means we have a little bit of an inferiority complex. And so anytime we hear anything really cool like that happening, we're like, yeah, no, that's never going to happen. But interestingly, this past week, the gentleman who's developing that project, he says he's got all the financing in place, however many $1.8 billion or whatever. And apparently, who's who of investors. I still don't know that it makes sense. I'm not quite sure we have the population density to justify it, but we'll see. We'll see. He
Hey,
wants to break ground this summer, so let him. We'll see what
wow.
happens. We'll see what
Hey,
happens.
build it and they will come.
You know what? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what'll happen. We'll see. We shall see.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I normally like to start the interview to kind of figure out how you got into this wild world of finance. It sounds like you took a creative route or a unique route to get
Yeah,
there.
I did. I did. I would have to say that it really starts back in my early 20s. Like a lot of people, after I graduated college, I found myself in a lot of debt. And I'd like to say that it was a lot of student loan debt and I had this great degree and everything. No, most of it was credit cards. I was just stupid. I went out and I had a good time. My buddies and we got a townhouse, three guys living together. All the parties were at our place. And man, for about 3 years, I had a great time. Then, then the bills came due. And I
Mhm.
found myself, significantly in credit card debt to the tune of more than $17,000, which may not sound like a lot compared to a lot of people, but for me, it was tough. And one night, I had a job, worked in the financial industry at that time, in the banking industry. It was a Friday night. I'll never forget it. Got in my car. I needed gas. So I thought, okay, well, I better go get some gas. I'm on empty. Pulled up to the 7-Eleven. And it was at that moment that I realized I just made my rent payment. I just made my car payment. My credit cards are maxed out. There was no money left in my checking account. How am I going to buy gas? So I started rummaging around through my car looking for loose change, $1 or something. And I found 40 cents. And I literally took that 40 cents in and I said, I need 40 cents on pump number 3. The guy looked at me like I, had lobsters crawling on my face. And he said, okay, are you sure? I was like, yeah. I don't know if you've ever pumped 40 cents worth of gas, Chris. It doesn't last very long.
Okay.
It's one little squeeze. And I got back in my car. And for about 5 minutes, I had my little pity party. And I was bawling. I was like, I can't believe I've gotten to this point. How did this happen? Well, I know how it happened. I was dumb. I was stupid. Made really bad choices. So I pulled myself together, and 45 minutes later, I had a second job at the local shopping mall, department store, because I knew I'd gotten myself into that mess and I had to get out of it. So I worked a second job, and then later I added a third job. I worked almost round the clock, 7 days a week for 18 months to get myself out of the debt. But during that time, I didn't have any money, so I couldn't go pay for any entertainment. So the library was free entertainment. And I started going to the library on the rare moments that I had off. And what I started checking out were books on personal wealth management, personal finance. I read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Millionaire Next Door, any books I could get my hands on that talked about not just eliminating debt, but creating wealth. And how do other people do it? I had already done what people in debt did. I wanted to be like the people that were wealthy. And I started emulating them. I started doing those things. And then something really weird started happening. My friends who were also in debt started asking me for advice. Started asking me, how are you doing this? What are you doing? I said, well, you're not going to like my answer. I work 3 jobs, 7 days a week, nearly around the clock. Nobody wanted to hear that.
That sounds like work.
Yeah, that's just too much work. Isn't there a quick fix? What's in those books you're reading? There's no magic here. But I found that I really enjoyed helping other people avoid the mistakes that I had made. And if I could save just one of them, I thought that's worth it. Several years go by. Now I'm working in the nonprofit world, and I'm a professional fundraiser. And I've never forgotten those lessons that I learned. I'm out of debt, and I never went back. I started working in major gift fundraising, raising significant 6- and 7-figure gifts, and I really got into a lot of planned giving, estate plan giving, that sort of thing. And my donors were asking me all these financial questions, tax questions, investing questions, trust questions, and I couldn't answer them. But I never forgot what I had learned. And I went back. I wish I could answer these questions. I wish I had the answers to these questions. I began to work towards a designation called the Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy, the CAP designation. I thought that would help me in my fundraising career. And as I started researching that, I found this other designation. I thought, what is this certified financial planner? What is that? Because that sounds like what I want to do. That sounds so cool. That's what I want to do. And I remember I walked down the hall to my wife. I said, hey, honey, you know that one program I was going to do that was going to cost me about $700? Well, this one is going to cost me about $3,600, but I really want to do it. Can I please, please, please? And that was 2010. I got enrolled in the CFP education program. No experience in the financial industry. No clue how I was going to break in, what I was going to do. I didn't know what I didn't know. But I went through it, and I ended up passing the CFP exam before I even had a job in the financial industry. I had no experience, but I was able to pass the exam. And so that was how I got into this industry, or at least how I took the first steps. But my inspiration was my personal experience and then my desire to teach and help other people to grow and thrive with their wealth.
Wow, that's a great story. I love the way you got there. It was very personal and inspirational. Um, so you went to school for something completely different, right?
Yeah, my degree was in marketing, but at the time, I thought I was going to be an entertainer. I thought I was going to
Mhm.
be a performer. I was on a vocal scholarship throughout college. All through high school, I sang in choirs, I performed on stage. But what I really loved was stage work. I loved being in musicals, I loved opera, I loved acting. And
Yeah.
so I dreamed that I was going to be a professional performer. I did, a vocalist, something. I thought I'm going to make it on Broadway. That's tough to do. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, for everybody that has the dream, maybe, one out of 1,000 actually make it that far. But I was on the vocal scholarship, like I said, and I thought, well, if I can't be a performer, then maybe I can be on the business side of it. And I actually did go and audition. There was an opera company in the Dallas area that was auditioning, and I went down for some to audition, and I had my music prepared, and I got down there, and I thought I sounded pretty good. And then I started hearing some of these other singers around me, and they're warming up, and I hear their voices, and I'm like, oh, so that's what real talent sounds like. That's why I wonder, now I know why I don't sound like that. I'm not that good. And so that dashed my dreams of being a performer. I thought, well, maybe I'll get in on the business side of it. So I got a marketing degree. It was called promotions management, but it was entertainment and that sort of thing. And I thought, I'll get into the music industry. I'll move to LA. I'll get in the music industry and it'll be great. Um, that didn't work out. That didn't pan out. So I did get a marketing degree. I did get a business degree, but I did not have a degree in finance and never imagined at that time that I would be doing this work.
Mhm. That's awesome. I mean, I'm detecting a lot of passion. You're a very like passionate individual. You get after it,
Yeah.
which I love. Very admirable. I like to look at myself in the same regard. So, do you think, or how did your background in entertainment benefit your uh, growing your practice?
Yeah. Quite a bit, actually. In fact, I credit my exposure to the arts and to stage work in general toward for helping me to be able to speak with people. You get up in front of 5,000 people on stage and subject yourself to their scrutiny. You got that. I mean, I'm not saying that I have a lot of courage, but it takes a lot of courage to do that. And now my oldest son is doing that kind of work. And I tell him all the time, whether you're good or whether you're not good, you're going to have off nights and you're going to have times when you don't sound as good and you don't perform as well. But it takes courage to get up there nonetheless. And that is valuable. So it takes courage to do this work. It takes courage to get out and meet people you don't know, right? It takes courage to get up in front of people and give them guidance and advice. So my performing background has helped me to learn how to talk to people, maybe even perform for them for a little bit. I co-host a weekly radio show here in the Oklahoma City area. Now I could easily get on that show and it could go, this week in the S&P 500, it was this and commodities are this. Nobody wants to hear that. I mean, sure, you want information, but you got to entertain people too, right? And so that entertainment background helps me to take what are often complicated topics, interest rates, the markets, the economy, whatever, and boil that down into little easy to understand bites and sometimes entertain people too. I like to tell stories. I use lots of analogies. I like to tell jokes. I like to make fun of myself.
Mhm.
And a lot of that goes back to the performing background uh, that I bring to the table.
Mhm. That's awesome. You are. You've been preparing for your greatest role of all time.
And I had no idea. I had no
Yeah.
idea. You know? And something you said a moment ago, passion.
Hmm.
I think not just for this role, but let's call it what it is. We're in sales, right? This is a sales job. Yes, you're giving advice, you're helping people with their wealth, but to really grow your business, you got to sell. And you've got to sell yourself, you've got to sell your philosophy, and we're all in that same business. And I tell young people, I go and talk with finance majors who are looking to become advisors. I speak with people who are looking to change careers like I did and get into this industry. If your primary motivation is to come into this industry just to make money, just to earn money, I promise you, you're going to wash out much more quickly. I mean, for the first 2 years that I was in this industry, my income was exactly this much. Okay.
Wow.
Because right off the bat, I targeted high net worth families. My minimum was $500,000. I was like, I'm going to go big or I'm going to go home. I'm going to make this work.
Hmm.
And that took time. It was hard work. If my only motivation at that time was money, I would have left and I would have done something else because I was going hungry. My true passion, though, was I knew this is where I should be. I knew this is what I should be doing. And if I saw it first to give value and to teach and to help people learn how this stuff works, to demystify this whole world of money, the business would come. And it did. It took about 2 years before I really broke through. But when I did, the floodgates opened, and I was really glad that I had my passion. And I have to remind myself, even now that I've become more successful, I'm reminded of that line from Eye of the Tiger, right? The song. Sometimes it happens so fast, you trade your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the past. You must fight just to keep them alive. For me, to truly stay in touch with why I do what I do, I will frequently go back and remember that scared 24-year-old kid who had all that debt. Remember what that felt like, and then remember how passionate I was and how vehement I was in saying, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to be wealthy and I'm going to help other people become wealthy. And when I remember that, it keeps me grounded and connected to the real reason why I do this work.
That's awesome. I've heard that song at least 1,000 times, and I did not realize that's what they were saying.
Yeah, it's I think in the second verse or something like that,
Yeah.
And it happens, right? As we become more successful, we get fat and happy, we get complacent, we rest on our laurels. It's very easy to forget your why. And I think especially in any sales business, anytime you are self-employed and you eat what you kill, you have to keep yourself connected to something that is not money. That is not the success. You need to keep yourself connected to something that is an emotion. Emotions are stronger, I think, than anything else. And for me, that emotion is my desire to never again make those mistakes and to help other people avoid them.
Mm. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's a very powerful perspective, the finding your why. Um, how did you so many follow-up questions to what you just shared. How did you know off the bat to aim high, to go for, 500K and above? And how did you stick with it for so long?
You know,
2
the
years?
the answer is I didn't know that. I was very fortunate. So how did I actually get into the business? So I had passed the CFP exam, and I was taking financial advisors out to lunch, picking their brain. How do you get into this industry? I was just looking for somebody to give me a chance, somebody to give me a shot. And I knew that I was not a very attractive draft pick. I didn't have any assets. I brought zero experience to the table. So I thought, okay, I got to come to the table with something other than a fork and a knife. I got to bring a dish to the dinner here. So if it's not assets, what can I bring? Well, I can write. I'm a good writer. I can do marketing. I can get up and speak. As it turned out, I can co-host a radio show. I've got that talent. I can do these other things to add value to your company while I'm learning, while you teach me. And I was very fortunate that I met our founder and CEO at ChappelWood Financial, Victoria Woods. And I met her through a mutual friend that we had. And that friend knew I was looking to get into the industry. She knew Victoria was looking to bring on another advisor. And it just clicked. We hit it off really well. And very early on, Victoria was the one that mentored me and encouraged me to set my sights high, because she had already done the work of, opening smaller accounts and things like that. And it's not that people with smaller accounts don't need guidance too. It's just from a practical standpoint, you can either work with 1,000 people at $50,000 each, or you can work with 100 people at 5 million, or whatever. And I thought, well, that makes sense, because in my fundraising background, I did that exact same thing. If I'm running a $30 million capital campaign, I can either go after 10,000 people giving, $300 or $3,000 a piece, or I can go after 20 really big donors and knock this thing out really quickly. And so that made sense to me. So she's the one that encouraged me. As far as how did I stick with it, I didn't give myself any choice. I decided this is what I'm going to do. And listen, I knew that if worse came to worse and it didn't work out, I could always go back to fundraising. So to me, changing careers wasn't that scary, because I still had connections there. I could go get a job tomorrow if I really had to, but I didn't want to do that. So for me, it was my motivation. And then my wife wasn't working at the time. I had 2 kids. So when you're going hungry and you've got 3 mouths to feed other than your own, you get motivated pretty quickly to get your butt up and go work and, pound the pavement. And that's what I did.
Wow. So what was that's arguably the scariest thing you can encounter in life is having, a wife who is depending on you, and kids, multiple kids depending on you, and
Yeah.
then you're trying to do your dream that right now isn't delivering the income that you require. That's one of the scariest, hardest things in life.
Yeah.
I would argue.
It
Yeah.
it was terrifying. And there were times when I thought I'd made a mistake. There were times I was demoralized. Um, I remember some of those early appointments that I had. I would get somebody that would listen to our radio show, and they would call in, and I would schedule the appointment, and they had $1.5 million. And I remember some of those early meetings, and the desperation was just coming off of me like rotting meat. I mean, you could smell me to high heaven, and the people I was talking, they could sense that. It didn't occur to me at the time until somebody else, another person who happened to hear me. The best piece of advice I got was, Damon, stop being so damn desperate. Okay, stop acting like, oh, I gotta have this, but I do have to have it. Yeah, but you don't want to show that. Okay.
Hold it in.
That's right. So I had to learn that. And that's really hard when you are hungry. You're desperate to close that deal, but you can't let your emotions get ahead of you. And that was probably the hardest lesson for me to learn. It wasn't even a lesson. It was an emotion. It was an emotion that I had to get over. And, now things are great. And I'm much more laid back because I'm more successful. But it wasn't that long ago. I've been in this business now 10 years, and it wasn't that long ago. I'm not so far removed from it that I don't remember that. And it's a lesson that I replay in my head over and over. Again, don't forget the past, because it's what got you to where you are today.
So what was the tipping point? How did you break through?
2016. So it was toward the end of my second year, or my third year. And I had closed some business. At that point, I had built a book of maybe a couple $1 million. So it was a start, but certainly not enough to pay the bills. And how did I make it through this entire time? Well, before I had made the transition, I saved up a lot of cash. I knew I was going to make the transition. So I saved up what I thought was 3 years worth of cash. and it wasn't enough. um, I had to make some hard choices. Not just me, my wife and I had to make some hard choices. We invaded some of our retirement accounts to survive. I look back on that now and see, yeah, there's still some regret on that, but we did what we had to do to survive. And I knew I can't just rely on the radio show. I got to do something. I got to find my niche. So I started thinking, well, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at speaking. I'm good at getting in front of a room of people. I'm good at entertaining people. Um, I'm good at distilling complicated stuff into story form and teaching. I like to teach. And that's when the light bulb came on. I can teach. What if I taught a class? What if I put together a class? So the very first thing I did, or the way I broke through, I went to our local library and I talked to the person who was in charge of it. And I said, I want to come in and I want to teach a class on finance, a personal finance class. And I think it was a tax class. Said, I want to teach a tax class. Oh, okay. Well, what is it going to look like? I didn't know what it was going to look like. Hadn't built it yet, but fake it till you make it. I said, well, it's going to be this and this and this. I had an idea, but I didn't have anything really. I just had an idea, just a few bullet points. And lo and behold, she agreed. And she said, okay, well, how about another month? I'm like, that sounds perfect. Absolutely. And I had this big smile on my face. And as I walked out to the car, I was like, holy crap, now I got to come up with this class. I don't know what I'm doing here. So I put my own curriculum together. I talked to various CPAs. I said, is this right? Does this sound good? And my very first class, I'll never forget, it was September of 2016. I had 3 people in the class, 3 ladies, 3 women. And after the class was about an hour and a half long, 2 of those women became my clients. And at that time, those 2 ladies doubled my book of business.
Wow.
And I came away from that thinking, I think I found my niche. I think I found my thing. So I scheduled another class. And this time I taught, I think, on income planning, cash flow management, that sort of thing. And now I had 10 people in my class. And 4 of ththose people became my clients. I doubled my book again. Of course, at that time, it wasn't hard to double. So I went from 2 million. Now I'm at, 10 to 12 million, 10 million, something like that. And I just kept it going. And then 2020 came, COVID came, and things were rocking along. And by this time, I'm selling out my classes. I created a 2-night class that I called Rock Your Retirement. It was my own curriculum. I put it together. I created my own workbook. And then COVID came and shut down all my classes. I'm like, what am I going to do now? I thought, well, I'm going to pivot. What's this thing called Zoom? Everybody keeps talking about this thing called Zoom. Can I use this? And I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll do a webinar version and I'll invite people. And I thought, if I can get 10 to 12 people to attend my webinar, that'd be great. My very first virtual session of Rock Your Retirement was May of 2020. And in that first webinar, I had 150 people that had signed up. Out of that class, I ended up writing about $20 million in business.
Wow.
And so, the world has changed and, the market changes. And so how I deliver those educational courses has changed too. But for me, education was the key. It was delivering education packaged as stories. That's literally all that it is. I tell stories to illustrate the concepts that I'm trying to teach, stories of my real clients. And of course, now I actually have real clients and real stories to share, as opposed to made up ones that were, it could be like this. So anyway, that's what worked for me. And I've never forgotten it. I continue to do it to this day. And if there's a young advisor out there who's just started in the business, or even an older advisor and you just got started, my philosophy, my mantra has always been: seek first to provide value. The business will come later. You said, if you build it, they will come. And to me, show that you are there to serve and help, people will see that. They will see that it's genuine, and they will want to work with you.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So, I mean, you are a tremendous storyteller. Just in the brief time we spent together, I'm a glutton for stories, and I'm hanging on every word. So you got that going for you. How did you get the word out about these classes, and what was it about the source material or the titles that attracted high net worth individuals?
Well, first of all, how did I market it? Again, I go back to Victoria. Victoria, our CEO and founder, is a marketing wizard. Um, she knows everybody, first of all, but she's not afraid to try new things. She's been on the radio for many years, so we had a radio show. Well, 60% of our business at that time came from the radio show, so we had a pretty wide reach, and for quite some time we were the number one financial show on the weekend financial show on the talk radio station that we're still on. So we had a pretty broad listenership. We just talked about it. We promoted it. We encouraged people, call us. Then texting became a thing, and we were able to receive texts that was compliant and that integrated with, we use Redtail for our CRM system. And so we use a service that integrates. That way we could be compliant, because people like to text, email, whatever. Then I really started getting into social media. I advertised on Facebook. I had campaigns. I got into recording video. I thought there's got to be some way to use video for that, to promote this. So I started using video, short little 1-minute videos, as a way to say, hey, let me tell you this quick story. Ted and Evelyn came in, and here's what their problem was. And they had this big tax bill, but we made this small little tweak to help cut their tax bill in half. I know you want to know about that. Come to my class next Thursday, and I'm going to share the secret with you. Simple things like that, And
born salesman you are, sir.
There you go. It's on radio. It's what do you call it? It's the I can't remember what the term is now. But you tell them hey, coming up, you're going to hear about this, so come back.
Bury the lead or something.
Goddammit, I can't think of the word now. But anyway, so that's how we marketed it. And then after a few years go by, now hundreds of people have gone through my class. Now I started getting a lot of word of mouth. People that have become my clients tell their family members and tell their coworkers, hey, you should go to this guy's class. And that's how it's worked out. And as far as the curriculum, how did I develop that? I would look at other people's curriculum. And there are many services, really wonderful services, where you can actually buy their curriculum. I thought about doing that, but then I thought, I'm going to have to learn how to teach that. I want to be able to teach what I know, and I want to tell stories. And the reason I like stories, it goes back to my fundraising days. You got to tell stories. Numbers tell and stories sell. That's the number one thing that I learned. And you got to tell stories, and that's what people latch on to. And so I thought, I don't need to buy somebody else's curriculum. I have all of the examples and concepts I need. I do it every day in my work. So if I'm talking about Medicare, I say, here's how Medicare works, but then I tell a story to highlight it. People are going to remember it. Here's a tax story, here's a cash flow tax story, and that's what people remember. And it's much more easy to understand. It's easier to think about and grasp the concept. So that's really how I happened upon what I do. Almost everything I do is storytelling. It's telling a story about a current client, an example of something that we did, because I don't have to make it up. I don't have to remember the details because we did it.
Yeah.
So that's how I like to teach.
And I think that's the kind of universal learning language. Like we all, whether you're a visual learner, auditory learner, kinesthetic learner, stories encompass all of those learning styles. So it's like you tell a story and people are just tuned in. They're hearing what you're saying. It's the best form of communication.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
It is.
yeah. So that's awesome. You really leveraged your abilities and background to achieve success in this industry.
Yeah.
Like I was, I said it tongue in cheek earlier, but I think it actually is very true that this is the role you've been training for your entire life.
Yeah. I think it is. I think it is.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
I was a professional fundraiser for 12 years, and I loved the work, and I loved all the nonprofits that I worked for and with, and I did some private consulting toward the end of that career before I transitioned over here. But I can honestly say that my 10 years in this industry, unlike my fundraising career, I truly wake up every day excited to come to work. Now, I have difficult days just like anybody. I have difficult meetings with clients just like any advisor. It happens. It's going to happen. But I can truly say that at the end of each day, even after you've gone through those difficult meetings and tough days and dealing with running a business, um, I still wake up the next day excited to get to come back. I don't view it as a drudgery. I've had jobs where Sunday night rolls around and not even like Sunday at 2 o'clock, you start dreading going to bed
yeah.
to get up the next day and go to work. And I know a lot of people who live that way. I no longer live like that. I get excited about coming to work because I really believe that I'm making a positive difference in people's lives. And they tell us that that's true. And there's nothing more gratifying to me than knowing that some small piece of advice that I gave helped somebody, maybe even changed their life. I have two clients, and their identity had gotten stolen. Somebody filed a fraudulent tax return with the IRS using their name, and it was a huge mess. It turns out that that year they were actually due a $12,000 refund, but they couldn't get it because this identity issue had not been cleared up. They'd called the IRS, they'd called around attorneys, all kinds of stuff, asking for help. And they finally called me and told me about it. I said, let me think about this. Let me think on this. I thought for about 10 minutes. I said, well, one thing they haven't tried is contacting their senator. I bet our senator's office can help with this. Maybe we can apply some pressure from Congress, from a congressman. Turns out that senator in his office had somebody who liaises with the IRS and helps with this very thing. Called the office, got the name of the woman that does that, got her information, called my client, said, call this woman. She will help you. Okay. This all happened within the span of about 3 hours, and it had been months that they'd been dealing with this. The next week, found out they called, they got the information they needed. She was working on their case. And just last week, their CPA told me they're getting their refund. And all of this happened in the span of about 2 months since we've been working with this, whereas it had been over 2 years that they'd been working before. That's the stuff I live for, that we were able to provide value. And I'm not sending them an invoice for that. I didn't charge anything for that because this is what we do. This is what we love doing. And you better believe now I've got fans for life now. They're telling everybody. And I really believe that if you seek first to provide value, the rewards will come from that. And I love seeing people be successful and live happy lives.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful thing, and it's really coming through. So that's awesome. This was fantastic. Thank you so much, Damon, for taking the time.
I appreciate you giving us the platform to share these stories.
Yeah.
I think sometimes as advisors, it can be a lonely existence sometimes. We feel like we're out on an island by ourselves, and we're the only ones having those tough conversations, and we're dealing with all this stuff, running the business, dealing with staff and everything that you have to deal with. And it's really helpful to hear other advisors who have gone through the same thing, who have crossed all those bridges, and they're like, "Yep, I've been there." And it helps relieve some of that pressure just to know that you're not in it alone. So I appreciate you doing this podcast because I know you're helping a lot of advisors to figure out other ways to do things and learn. And so thank you. Thanks for the help.
Hey, thank you. You're the first person to put it that way, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it's, that's exactly why we're doing it. But selfishly, I genuinely enjoy, learning more about advisors and how they built their practice, and just the insane variety of ways in which they become financial advisors. I interviewed a woman earlier this week. She went to Yale and then the army in Germany, and then came back and became a financial advisor. I'm like, that's a new one. Yours is a new one as well. Going the entertainment to financial advisor route.
Everybody's got a story. Everybody
That's
does.
amazing. I enjoy it immensely. Yeah. So awesome. Well, I have one final question for you. Okay. It is open-ended. You can take it in any direction that you like. The question is, what are you working towards?
What am I working toward? Oh boy, that is a good question. Well, I'll say professionally, our firm is looking to grow. We are growing. Our goal is to eventually, in the next 10 years, grow to at least 10 different markets where we've got a presence. That's a very audacious goal. But again, you set your goals high, be ridiculous, be unreasonable in your goal setting, because even if you don't get here, you might still get here, which is better than here. I think too many people set their goals too low because they're achievable and it makes them feel good and they can pat themselves on the back. We met our goal. Yeah, but you could have done so much more if you'd strained yourself a little bit more. So that's kind of our professional goal. My personal goals. My wife and I have what we call our vision board. And it's just one big piece of white poster board that I bought at a craft shop for 99 cents back in 2015. All right. I had just made the transition to this industry. And I had zero doubt. Well, I shouldn't say zero doubt, but I felt strongly I am going to be successful. And I'm so certain of that we're going to write down these gigantic goals over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up to 40. I even have goals for when I'm in my 90s. Okay. I'm just assuming I'm gonna live that long. And we put down things like I have certain income goals that I'm going to hit by that time. We're going to build our dream house by this time. We're going to take our kids on a big, expensive Disney World vacation by this time. We're going to go to England for our 20th anniversary. My big thing, I want to take my wife on the Orient Express train. I've always been enamored with the idea of train travel and that sort of thing. So we've got our vision board, and I have it framed, and it sits in a place of honor in our dream house that is now built. So I've hit my income goals. We took our kids to Disney World. We built the dream house. And it was because of intentional focus on all of those things. And every day I had to look at it. And I asked myself, what are you doing today, Damon, to get closer to one of these goals? One simple thing, a phone call, something. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm working on right now. And that's what I have now and for the next several years. It's our vision board. That's our driving focus on all these things that we want to do personally, professionally, spiritually, anything. So yeah. If you don't have a vision board, get a vision board. Make a vision.
You inspired me. I'm gonna make one. I've had that on my to-do list for.
Yeah. And then here's something really scary. Once your vision board is done, take pictures of it and send it to all your family members and your friends. Because now they're going to ask you, hey, when are you guys building your dream house? And you better have an answer, right? You make this contract with all these people, and it forces you to really focus on it and get it done. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me and my audience.
yeah.
Damon, this has been fantastic. Where can my audience find out more about you?
The first place, they can go to ChappelWood.com. That's our website, and you'll learn a lot about our firm. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn under Damon King. Well, you can also check out our YouTube page. It's under Financial Diva. Victoria, I'm not the diva. Victoria goes by the Financial Diva, but our YouTube channel is Financial Diva on YouTube. Lots of video content there that we have put up. And if you're so inclined, every Wednesday, most Wednesdays, probably 48 Wednesdays out of 52 every year, I host what I call the Wednesday lunchtime drive-through. It's a 30-minute webinar from 12:30 to 1 p.m. Central. And I talk about any number of topics. Just this week, I shared with all of my people who are registered some of the advances in AI and technology that are coming in the next 4 to 6 years. And it's mind-blowing stuff, and people love it. It's different from our radio show. It's interactive. And so I've got lots of past episodes on a playlist on our YouTube channel. But I'd say our website, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel, and you'll learn pretty much anything you need to know about me. And you can always pick up the phone and call me. I'll talk to anybody.
Awesome. And we'll be sure to link all those URLs in the show notes. Damon, thank you so much for taking the time
You too,
to chat with
Chris.
us today.
I appreciate it.
Fantastic.
And to your prosperity and health and success. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much. And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.